Emma, you brought shame to our family, just leave, you're not wanted here. The harsh words struck me like a whip, spat out by my own father during my brother Tom's wedding celebration. The sting of humiliation deepened as Tom stood there in silence, his quiet approval of my rejection evident. Fury surged inside me, ready to leave in a storm, when a sudden cry for help halted my steps. A hotel staff member, in distress, urgently needed my assistance. In that unexpected twist, my father finally saw me for who I truly was, and the shock shook him. I'm Emma, the youngest of two brothers. Growing up, our father, a strict lawyer, always favored Tom, leaving me in his shadow. There was never time for fun or relaxation in our household. Everything revolved around lessons and studying. Even the simple pleasure of playing outside with friends was a luxury I could never afford. No matter how hard I tried to meet my father's impossible standards or surpass Tom's accomplishments, I always fell short, a constant source of disappointment. The defining moment came with the entrance exam for a prestigious school, a final attempt to earn my father's approval. When I failed, his cold silence spoke volumes. His attention firmly fixed on Tom, my mother was left to bear the weight of his neglect. Though I found comfort in my mother's unwavering support, life remained tough, worsened by Tom's indifference. After high school, determined to find my own way, I left without a word, leaving only a note for my mother. I found work at a hotel where I could both live and earn a living. It was there, in the busy halls and among transient guests, that I finally felt a sense of freedom and purpose I had never known at home. Emma, another mistake. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm sorry, I'll fix it right away, I stammered. Get it together, Emma. Jack, the hotel manager, was demanding, setting high standards for me as a high school graduate suddenly thrust into the real world. Despite the constant corrections, I kept pushing forward, determined to prove myself in this new environment. Unlike my father's harshness, Jack's criticism was constructive, and when he praised me, it gave me the strength to keep striving. A turning point came at the new year, the busiest time for the hotel. After completing my training, I was given independent duties. That year, the hotel was stretched thin with a flood of guests. As a novice, I did my best, but I knew my inexperience was putting a strain on the hotel's operations. Then disaster struck. A kitchen sink pipe burst during dinner service, creating a mess no one could fix immediately. In a moment of desperation, I stepped forward. Jack, can I try fixing it? I'll take care of it. He looked at me skeptically, but my suggestion was the only hope. Jack reluctantly agreed, unaware that my science-focused high school education had taught me some basic plumbing skills. 30 minutes later, the flooded kitchen was dry. The crisis is over, I said, breathless. Jack rushed over, eager to test the fix. Turning on the faucet, water flowed freely, a sign that my repair had worked. The room erupted in applause. Well done, Emma, you're a real asset, Jack said, his words warming me. Under Jack's mentorship, I grew in ways I never thought possible. Together, we overcame challenges, and I became someone I could be proud of. 15 years passed, and I had fully integrated into my I don't want you ruining Tom's wedding. Leave now. Those harsh words reverberated in my ears, their sting familiar, but no less painful. A surge of emotion welled up, a cocktail of anger and years of rejection. I hadn't even wanted to attend, yet here I was, being humiliated in front of everyone. Fine, I'll go, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. Turning on my heel, I headed for the door, determined to leave the painful scene behind. But just as I reached the threshold, a voice stopped me. Excuse me, miss. A wedding staff member hurried over, their face a mask of concern. What is it? I asked, masking my frustration with curiosity. We have a problem. An unexpected guest has shown up, and now we're short on seating and meals, they explained, their anxiety palpable. The air in the room was thick with tension as the planner, Mila, and the bride's parents exchanged worried glances. The gravity of the situation was evident. I hesitated, torn between my resentment toward my father and Tom and the responsibility I felt to help. Memories surfaced, fragments of my childhood when Tom would shield me from trouble or sneak a laugh during our rigid study sessions. Despite his silence now, those moments tempered my anger. Walking away would be easy, but would it be right? Taking a steadying breath, I turned to the staff member. Take me to Mila, I said with newfound resolve. The staff member guided me back into the room. My father's eyes narrowed at my return, his disapproval sharp as ever. Why are you still here? He demanded, his voice as cold as ice. Before he could unleash another tirade, Mila stepped in, her tone urgent. "Emma, we could really use your help," she said, clearly flustered. My father's confusion deepened as I spoke. "I'm the general manager of this hotel chain," I began calmly. "Since starting with the company in its early days, I've overseen its expansion to include numerous hotels and event venues across the country. This hotel happens to be one of them." His expression froze, disbelief etched into his features. "I'll handle this," I said, turning to Mila. "Focus on the seating arrangements and guest logistics. I'll take care of the food situation." Relief flooded Mila's face. "Thank you, Emma," she said before hurrying off to manage her tasks. Leaving the room, I made my way to the kitchen, where I found Jackson, the head chef and an old friend. "Emma, what brings you here today?" he asked, surprised but pleased. "My brother's wedding. We've got an issue, one extra guest, and we're short a meal. Think you can help?" I explained. "Consider it done," Jackson said with a grin. "I'll whip something up right away." "You're a lifesaver. Dinner's on me next time," I said gratefully. "Deal," he replied, already pulling ingredients. Once the crisis was resolved, I returned to the waiting area. The guests had moved to the ceremony, leaving behind only my parents and the bride's family. "It's all sorted," I announced. "The extra meal will be ready shortly." Relief washed over the room. My mom smiled warmly, and the bride's parents offered heartfelt thanks. My father, though, looked torn between pride and his usual stoicism. "Emma, thank you," he said finally, his tone softer than I had ever heard before. "It's my job," I replied simply. "Let's join the others." As we stepped into the ceremony hall, the lights dimmed, and the bride and groom made their grand entrance. The event unfolded flawlessly, each moment a testament to teamwork and dedication. During the meal, I ensured every guest was served before allowing myself a moment to relax. Later, as the celebration wound down, the bride's family approached me, their gratitude evident. "You saved the day. We can't thank you enough," they said earnestly. "It's my pleasure. Wishing you all the best in your new journey," I replied warmly. Turning, I found my mom beaming at me. "You were incredible, Emma. I'm so proud of you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Tom and my father approached next, their expressions a mix of remorse and gratitude. Tom spoke first. "I owe you an apology, Emma, and a thank you. I don't know what we'd have done without you. All that matters is," I reassured him with a gentle nod before turning to Dad, who remained silent, his expression unreadable. Accepting their gratitude gave me a sense of closure, a quiet acknowledgement that despite everything, we had found a sliver of common ground. Just then, my phone buzzed, pulling me back to reality. A new assignment awaited me at one of our hotels in the next town. I glanced at the screen and smiled. Duty calls. But you know what? I love what I do, so no complaints, I said lightly. With that, I stood to leave. "Take care, both of you," I said as I headed for the door. Deep down, I knew this might be the last time I saw either Tom or Dad. The thought lingered as I stepped out, my focus shifting back to work and the road ahead. 3 days after the wedding, I finally enjoyed a rare day off. Reclining on my sofa, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, I savored the moment of peace. The stillness was interrupted by the sharp chime of the doorbell. Puzzled, I got up to see who it was and opened the door to an unexpected sight. "Tom." "Tom?" I blinked in surprise. "What brings you here?" "Sorry for showing up unannounced. Mom gave me your address. I really wanted to talk," he said, his tone unsure. Curiosity got the better of me, and I invited him in. Ignoring any worries about the state of my home, I handed him a mug of coffee, and he offered a small, appreciative smile. "Thanks, smells great," he said, taking a sip. We settled into an uneasy silence before Tom broke it, his expression shifting to something more serious. "I need to apologize," he began, his words catching me off guard, "for everything." His sudden admission left me momentarily speechless. "Tom, it's okay," I finally managed, trying to put him at ease. But he shook his head. "No, it's not. You've always seemed so strong, Emma, but I've envied you. I felt like I was never enough," he confessed, his voice tinged with vulnerability. His words landed heavily, revealing a side of him I had never known. "You envied me?" I asked, stunned. "Yeah," he admitted, his gaze dropping to the coffee in his hands. "You were brave enough to go your own way, to build something meaningful. I stayed where it was safe, and now I feel like I've been living someone else's dream." For a moment, I was at a loss for words. "Tom, I had no idea you felt that way," I said softly. guilt creeping in for not recognizing his struggles earlier. "It's not your fault," he replied. "I guess I just needed to say it out loud." The honesty in his words bridged the emotional gap that had divided us for years. "I'm sorry, I never realized what you were going through," I said earnestly. "We've both had our battles," Tom said with a faint smile. "Yours just seemed bigger." Breaking away wasn't easy, I admitted. The early days were tough, but it was worth it. He nodded, his gaze distant. "I think you're right. I need to figure out what I really want to do." "Don't let Dad's expectations hold you back," I advised, hoping to ease the burden he carried. Tom's expression softened, relief evident in his features. "Thank you, Emma. I think I needed to hear that." As he stood to leave, I accompanied him to the door. "Thanks for coming by, Tom. Let's not wait so long to talk again." "Deal," he said with a genuine smile, "and I'll take you up on that coffee invite soon." A month later, a letter from Tom arrived in the mail. In it, he shared that he had left his legal career to pursue glass craftsmanship, a passion he had long suppressed. Though Dad had expressed his disapproval, Tom found strength in his wife's encouragement and the joy of following his dreams. As I folded the letter, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Tom was finally charting his own course, and our bond as siblings was stronger than ever. The shrill ring of my phone alarm pulled me from my thoughts, reminding me that another busy day awaited. With a renewed sense of purpose, I rose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in this life I had fought to build.